Hello, welcome to episode 37 of 5 Reasons Not to Harm Your Loved Ones During Quarantine. As you can all see, it is not a beautiful day in the neighborhood. However, we do have some really interesting topics to talk about today. I'll start out with the statistics. As of yesterday at 3 o'clock, we have 4,714 deaths in Michigan. And we have 48,391 cases of COVID-19 in Michigan. That is up 370 cases from yesterday. And other things that are going on, there is a protest, as many of you know or may be watching live, because you can watch it live right now, at the Capitol. Little differences between the last one and this one is, if you recall, the last one, the Capitol was actually open, and both the Senate and the House were in session. The Senate was scheduled to be in session today, but in order to protect themselves and the public and the spread of COVID-19, it was determined by that body that they would not hold their session today, and that they would the Capitol would actually be closed. So not only is the protest of today and demonstration of today going on, it is all outside. There's an increased police presence. The Michigan State Police are out in numbers and have been since yesterday, preparing to keep the peace at the rally today. As you know, it is their right to bear arms. There are, if you turn it on, any of the primary news stations, you can watch the live video of what's going on there, and you'll see, AR-15s and AK-47s and all kinds of assault weapons, and it's just astounding. So we talked about it a few weeks ago. I'll talk about it again. This is such a phenomenal history lesson. This is a great time to talk to your kids about the separation of powers, about checks and balances, about the different branches of government, because all those rights are colliding right now, and it's history. It is what they're going to learn in years to come. So we are presently in phase 3 of Governor Whitmer's 6-phase plan. As you know, phase 3 and 4, and I think part of 5 even, include a stay-at-home order. And so what that's going to look like, we will need to stay tuned in the coming weeks. So the topic today is to talk about children with disabilities, and the most important things for people to know about when we're talking about this is how widespread it is. How in the United States, every 3 in 21 students have a learning disability or a physical or health disability that impairs their ability to learn. It is mandated by federal law that every child is entitled to a free public education, often called FAPE. And really, in order to provide a free and appropriate public education to students, there has to be equal education. But equal isn't like 1 equals 1. It's access, and it's the ability to learn, having the appropriate environment, things like that. If it's offered to general education students, it must be offered to special education students. There are several federal laws as well as state laws that control this. The most notable is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, known as IDEA or IDEA, and then also under the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act. And COVID-19 kicks both of these into play because it's the first time that we have ever been able to look at these different controlling laws and say, like, is this something that should have been planned for in advance? Are they able to provide the FAPE? And these two doctrines do not specify what would happen if a brick and mortar school was closed for an extended period of time. They do define what an extended period of time is, which is more than 10 days. So these are uncharted waters. And, 9 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, I sort of feel like a broken record. I told everyone, you need to be talking to your special ed teams. You need to be talking to your directed study people, your school psychologists, the speech therapist. You know, as a parent, because you've lived it, if you don't ask, you don't get it. And if it's not in writing, it never happened. And those are kind of the fundamentals of getting children the accommodations that they need. And, a lot of parents go into the special ed environment thinking, oh, well, the school knows what's best for my child, and they're just going to take care of it. Well, that's what happens, until that child gets in a situation that wasn't contemplated ever, or if the school never identified the child as someone who needed special services, accommodations, or supports. The IDEA provides that the school has an obligation, it's called Child Find, to identify children who should be evaluated and considered for special ed services. But parents spend a lot of time with their kids, especially before they start school. And so parents, if you suspect that your child should have been found and should be evaluated and considered for services or supports or accommodations, by all means, you should be reaching out to the school to provide that. The other thing that I have been a bit of a broken record about is that, the IEPs need to be updated to have provisions for distance learning. And so, because you can't enforce it if it's not in there. And now what they're talking about, because obviously there were limitations on immediately having distance learning provisions in place. First of all, no one knew that it was going to happen. So, and second of all, it took weeks, and some districts and some schools still haven't accomplished it, for distance learning to be accomplished or to be provided in any way, shape, or form, let alone in the same way or close to the same way that it would have been if they were in the brick and mortar school. So what does that mean? Well, under the IDEA, if the child is falling behind because the services could not be provided, or even if it's just that the plan wasn't in place, then they're entitled to compensatory services. Compensatory services could be after you go back to school, the child gets an extra hour of occupational therapy a week, or they get access to additional peer supports for speech, or it could be anything. If you're dealing with a child with a health issue, for example, a lot of children who are diabetic have either IEPs or 504 plans, which allow them, to frequently use the restroom, or to have special meals provided, or additional snacks, or, things like that. And if those types of things that are health related are not able to be provided at home, then the school has to assist. I don't know if you've all seen this, but I have, certainly in my few times I've driven out of my driveway, that you'll see at schools every other day they do pass out meals, breakfast and lunch, and they also are passing out. My apologies, I lost my internet connection. I hope those of you that were on the other call find me again. So we were talking about that should children have contingency plans for distance learning if they when they go back to school in their IEPs? And the answer is yes, I think they should. And I'm happy to work with anyone to craft that plan. I think it's important that the discussions take place between the learning source, whether it's a teacher or it's an assistant or an aide or the speech therapist or the occupational therapist or whoever else is involved in your planning for your IEP. All of those people should be consulted as part of the team, as well as the parents, nannies, babysitters, older siblings who might be helping if there's another situation where we have at-home learning or distance learning. Because then everyone's on the same page, everyone has the right resources, and everybody knows what goals are to be accomplished during that time. So that's really important. A couple of timelines that are interesting. The IDEA never contemplated this. So we look to the U.S. Department of Education to see if the very strict timelines for schools and parents to act if there's a violation of the IDEA have been extended. And basically, if there is a state complaint filed, a due process complaint, that there has been a violation of the IDEA, ordinarily, we would be able to extend the deadline by 60 days in order to have what's called a complaint resolution conference. The only way that it can be extended now is if it's found to be exceptional circumstances, then it could be extended another 60 days, or if the parties, being the school and the parents or the guardians of the child, agree. When a parent files a due process complaint, this resolution meeting is supposed to occur within 15 days of the filing of the complaint. IEPs, if a child has been found eligible under the IDEA, the team must meet and develop the first IEP within 30 days and must review the IEP, reconvene as a team, review the goals, review the measures once a year. Certainly, a parent can ask to reconvene the IEP team. They can ask to have additions made. They can ask to have additional services added or other conditions. Like I suggested before, you should have a contingency plan for distance learning in the IEP. And then there's other timelines that have to do with more after you file the complaint and it's going through the administrative hearing process. And as of now, those timelines are pretty much being extended by agreement of the parties. Obviously, we cannot convene in person to hold any of these hearings, and it's very difficult to have witness testimony by video, by Zoom. In a lot of my other cases that are in circuit court or district court or juvenile court, we are doing some of our hearings by Zoom. And if they're pre-trials or they're not contested, it's working pretty well. And, I wouldn't mind if we stuck with that when we went back to, our non-stay-at-home days. But it's also, in any adversarial hearing, it's very difficult. So the last thing that I wanted to share with you, and I did post this on our Facebook page today, this little gem, it's called Learning at a Distance Guidance, and it's published by the Michigan Department of Education, and there's a link to it on our Facebook page. this is like the greatest thing ever, and I cannot believe how hidden it was and that I did not find it until now. But it has so many great resources about, what the guiding principles of distance learning should be. That you start small, you build on existing successes, focus on being flexible and giving grace, help students maintain and continue their learning outside the classroom, flexibility, reasonable expectations, connections, and collaboration. Teachers need support and training to best support children and families, and supporting physical, mental, and emotional health must remain a top priority. The biggest lesson about these guiding principles, and I just had a discussion with a friend of mine this morning who has a 13-year-old daughter, and she's working from home and she's really busy, and her daughter is trying to do school at home. And this morning, her daughter slept in and just was sad and not really feeling the love for education. And so, mom basically said, that's okay. We can learn tomorrow. We can learn tonight. And we have to take the lead from our kids, just like we do when they're in a classroom and a child's really, really, really tired. And they may get sent to the principal's office. Not because they're in trouble, but because they're not in their best state to learn. And that's one of the biggest challenges that I'm hearing from my clients is my child just doesn't want to do this. Well, doesn't want to do it and can't do it are different things. So this really helps with making a plan. You can make an agreed upon schedule with your child. You can tell them, this is when I'm available for extra help. This is when I'm available to sit with you and actually do your assessments or do your learning. It's just really a great, great resource. And I encourage all of you to go take it off the Facebook page, or you can go to the Michigan Department of Education website and put in Learning at a Distance Guide, and you will have it. So again, I'm sorry that we lost our internet connection in the middle here, but I'm glad that we got to finish. So just as a reminder, the 5 reasons not to harm your loved ones during quarantine. Protective services workers are essential. The police are essential. Our jails and prisons are crowded, even though people have been released because of COVID-19, and they are a hotbed for breeding of the virus. Number 4 is parents can get in trouble for kids being kids. And number 5, of course, because barely anyone, if anyone, looks good in horizontal stripes. Tune in tomorrow. We'll be talking about some estate planning issues that involve children, guardianships of minors, conservatorships of minors. What happens if God forbid, a minor dies? What happens to their assets and estate, and all those factors. So Carly Babby will be talking to you tomorrow about that, and I'll see you again on Monday. And I hope you all stay home, stay healthy,